Take a look at your hiring practices. Look at your employment applications. Ban discriminatory and biased questions. If you can pretty much guess my race through my name or by where I live, then restrict those kinds of questions from the application in itself, because that's where implicit bias comes in at, through a talent recruiter. Talent recruiters, human resource departments, are the modern day slave patrols for enterprise, because every applicant goes through the screening process of this talent recruiter or human resources or what have you, with clear racial identifiers as questions on a pre-employment application. Why is that? Despite the largest economic expansion in U.S. history, not to mention 4 centuries since the first enslaved Africans arrived in 1619, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, followed by Voting Rights and Fair Housing Acts of the 60s, America's labor market continued to be plagued with racial disparities that persist with Black Americans. This is identifying and examining bias and discriminatory hiring practices in the labor market. Specific points from my research brief will be highlighted, spotlighting the region's largest employers: United Parcel Service, Jefferson County Public Schools, Humana Incorporated, Norton Healthcare, and Ford Motor Company, hereafter referred to as the Big Five. Employment applications from the Big Five were assessed for bias and discriminatory questions, guided by one prevailing question: does this determine an applicant's ability to perform job responsibilities? Various questions are being asked of the applicant that are inherently discriminatory. Questions about race, gender, questions about addresses, social security numbers. Why is that information relevant to a pre-employment application? Why are you collecting racial demographic information if it's not even required on the application? On every application of the Big Five, it's voluntary. So if it's voluntary, why ask it in the first place? Every applicant would be assigned a number, not by name, no address. You don't need to know their social security number. You don't need to know their age nor birth date. Just an applicant number, a little bit about their work history. Basically, that's it for a pre-employment application. That's all that's necessary. The human resource officials of the Big Five were directly contacted, asking specific questions about racial, demographical information about their workforces. Surprisingly, but not surprised, little to no response was received, like none of the specific questions that were asked were answered. The irony of all of this are the diversity and inclusion statements and initiatives of the Big Five. There are socioeconomic disparities and issues because of the system, not because of a group of people. The Big Five have the power to do something different if they choose to. This is the time. This is the season to do something different. Be brave, be bold, be courageous, because what we're doing is only working for a particular demographic. There's no doubt that the subject of race and economics is one of the most sensitive, or is the most sensitive issue or subject to tackle. If you're really committed to diversity and inclusion, lead everybody else. Lead enterprise.
About your position as a hiring manager and you talking with the talent recruiter. Was she white, female, Hispanic?
Recruiter?
Yes.
The recruiter is a white female.
She's a white female. What's the race of the applicant that you requested that her application be pulled?
She was African American.
She was African American. And she couldn't say anything beyond, I don't think she has a good personality.
Yes.
Based on a phone interview?
A 10-minute phone interview.
A 10-minute phone interview. And this person came recommended
Highly
recommended by one of your employees.
correct. Highest educated person in our department. More than the system director.
Okay, now you know you're gonna have to talk about that.
So that when the manager position was open for 2 years,
Okay,
my system director never once approached me and said, hey, why don't you apply for it? I'll help you. I'll teach you what you need to know. None of that happened
okay,
in 2 years,
okay,
open position.
okay. Although you had the highest level of education and experience.
And experience, correct.
Wow.
I'm more qualified than all of these people.
Wow.
And I'm still making the same as this co-manager who has no degree. Our salaries were the same.
Wow. Wow.
I'm the only African American there, all Caucasian.
What would make an African American woman in a management position, an upper management level position, leave a position making close to 6 figures?
In a nutshell, the atmosphere,
Okay,
hostile,
okay,
and it was too much stress. Like I said, the manager or my director was not open to anything.
sure,
That conversation we had about race relations and all that, you know, it fell on deaf ears, and it's just the culmination of things. And I didn't trust my leader anymore.
sure, sure.
Neither her nor the system director. And again, he never stepped in and did anything or said anything. This is after conversations with HR as well. It was too much in person.
Sure.
Handle. I had asked HR that, does anybody in Norton's have 50 direct reports, 40 to 50 direct reports?
Sure.
Nobody had 40 to 50 direct reports at Norton Healthcare.
So, I mean, I heard you when you said before that you had the largest team.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 100, you had the largest team. You had 3 co-managers. One was terminated. So they doubled up on your team as far as numbers. So nobody within Norton Healthcare has, and one of the few African-American managers in an upper level management position, you were the only one to have that many direct reports.
Right. And it's evident that they have a problem recruiting African Americans, because all the African Americans, if they would open it up and show you, most of the African Americans have the housekeeping jobs at Norton Healthcare.
Sure.
They're in housekeeping or PCA, those type of lower level positions.
Okay.
There's just not a lot in management positions, supervisory positions, unless you happen to know somebody. So it's not really based on your education experience. If you know somebody, you can climb up the ladder real quick at Norton Healthcare if you're in with those people.
I guess the final question is, do you believe, had you stayed with your former employer, that
No. So I'll let you finish your question, but I'm certain that the answer will be no.
Well, the question is, do you believe if you stayed with your former employer that you would have been promoted to an upper level management position?
No, and one of the, and I'll tell you the reason why I say no. One of the reasons why I left and decided to pursue external career opportunities was because over the last 3 years, I've had the discussion in mid-year reviews, end-of-year reviews about where my next steps would be. Will I be promoted to a senior professional? What that looks like, what is different about me and the work that I do versus somebody else, and why I'm not being promoted.
Wow.
And you know what the answer to that was?
What was it?
Crickets.
Wow.
Crickets.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree, and at this point, I'm doing the work, so I have the experience.
Sure.
But you can't explain to me why I can't be promoted to a senior versus other people that are on my team, and other people that are in the department that may be on other teams, with the nature that of the work that I do.
Sure.
I'm cross-functional, and other people on the team only have one specific responsibility, which is investigation.
Wow.
Mind you, I'm managing a discrepancy review process for background checks. I do reporting and data analytics. I also do case investigation and also help to manage the engagement team for the department. So keeping associates engaged, keeping them wanting to be here, doing the fun stuff at work, keeping folks level-headed and trying to provide some monotony in the regular day-to-day office work, all of that, doing all of that. And you can't explain to me why I can't be promoted. So that was my reason for looking outside. So again, hands down, I know for a fact that it would have either taken years or it would have taken me going to some other area to be promoted into a leadership role.
All of my years of working there, never once did I have a black manager or manager of color. All 20 plus years, upper management was always, I never saw anybody that looked like me in upper management in all of my years there. The people that reported to me, for whatever reason, when it was time for the annual merit increases, they would meet with my boss. And I never quite understood it. It's like, well, wait a minute. If it's time for merit increases, why aren't they meeting with me? Why am I not doing their merit increases? So that would mean that I would have access to their financial records. I began to say, now I see why. But then eventually that manager that I reported to left, and I took over his office, and then I had a new manager came in, but he was out of Georgia.
Okay.
He went back to Alpharetta, run the show. He's not aware of the history. He's kind of new. He doesn't know that I didn't have access to financial records. So in his mind, do their merit increases, do their pay increases. Okay. Now I have access to the paperwork.
Okay.
And I found out that one of the people that reported to me had a higher base salary than me.
Wow. Wow.
Wait a minute, what? This person makes more money than me. This person reports to me and they make more money. Now, overall, the overall income, I was higher because of bonuses. Managers get what they call 1 unit bonus. Okay. And subordinates, they get like a half of a unit.
Okay.
Right, so and that's represented in stock. So we would get that bonus in stock. I would get a whole unit of stock. They would get a half unit of stock. From an overall salary perspective, would put me over the top. But the base salary without the bonus, you look at the month-to-month paycheck, this individual was making more than me. And that individual reported to me. Here I am with a master's degree of engineering. This person didn't have a degree at all. And I don't remember what the issue was, but I think it had to do with my promotion. Because me and him, we couldn't get past it. I said, well, out of respect for you, I'm letting you know that I'm going to send this request to HR at corporate headquarters.
Sure.
I don't want to do this behind your back, but you know what's coming. I'm going to send this complaint to HR, corporate headquarters, and have the issue addressed. So, I gave a long email with my history and my accomplishments and
Sure.
all of this good stuff, blah, blah, blah. And nothing ever came of it. Nothing ever came of it.